The awesome thing about cast iron is it retains the heat so well that I can take it off the heat, I can move it onto a rock, and the bread will continue to cook and brown up exactly the way I want it. And if you find that while you're cooking the cast iron is starting to look a little dried out, it doesn't matter at all to add just a little bit more olive oil to it. So I believe we're at a point where we can check the other side. As you can see, we're nice and toasty brown. Well, our China jute bread, flatbread, is now ready. We'll just take it off. I'll show you the other side. And as you can see, here's the dough. From dough to flatbread, it didn't take long at all. Now we'll break a piece off the bread. You can see it's really nicely textured. It's fluffy. It's moist. And I'm sure it's delicious. That it is. You can also take the dough, roll it, and make yourself a little pretzel and fry these as well. The pretzel has cooked, so I'm just going to show you here how it's cooked evenly through. Now, one thing I wanted to mention to you is that China jute or velvet leaf is extremely high, according to my research, in vitamin B. That includes vitamin B12, so this will be a very healthy bread as well. Now, many people are very familiar with Bannock and take Bannock along with them on their hiking or extended stay in the bush. And the recipe they use calls for powdered milk. I'm going to show you a different recipe that doesn't call for powdered milk, and I'm going to be using vegetable shortening in the recipe. In the bowl over here, I've pre-mixed 4 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and 4 tablespoons of vegetable shortening. Those are the little lumps you see in here. And what I'm going to do is just mix this all together until it resembles a coarse meal. While you're on the trail, you would just take this dried mixture along with you. And I'm just continuing to mix it to disperse the vegetable shortening in there. And you would take this amount of flour in a Ziploc bag with you. You could take extra Ziploc bags with you, and then when you needed to make a batch, you would take a bit of this out. You would put it into a Ziploc bag, add a little bit of water, and just mush it around with your fingers until you had the right consistency of dough. If you didn't have the right consistency, if it was too wet, for example, you would just add a little more of your bulk flour mixture. So this would be the mixture you placed in a Ziploc bag to take with you on the trail. Now, if you have a blender at home, you can just throw these ingredients in the blender and do the same thing that I'm doing, but as you can see, you don't really need to have a blender just to quickly mix it up. If you look, the flour now looks like it's coarse textured, almost more like cornmeal. That's because the vegetable shortening has been dispersed through it all. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take an amount of this flour, put it in another bowl to show you how you make your Bannock. I've put about a half a cup into another bowl, and what I'll do is just add a little bit of water. You don't want to over wet this, but like I said, if you do, you always have your extra to add a little more flour mixture to it. You basically are just trying to moisten it so you can come to some dough, some workable dough that you can knead. What I'm doing now is simply kneading the dough. I added just enough to make it a workable dough. It doesn't stick to my fingers at all. And now I can take this piece of dough, I can break it into 2. I can roll it out as I did in the previous video with a velvet leaf China jute bread, or I can take a portion, roll it out, which we're going to be doing on this video. I'll use a portion to bake on a stick so you can see what Bannock on a stick looks like as well. Now, this is not the only bread I'm going to make. What I'm going to show you is that Bannock is very versatile. You can have as much fun with it as you want. I will take another about a half a cup, But this time, I'm going to imagine that on our trek through the woods, I came across some blackberries. So I'm going to just drop them into my flour. Same thing as last time, I'm just going to add water, but this time I won't need as much water because the juice of the berries are going to come out as I mix the dough. You can see the red juices coming out of the berries. As I'm kneading this dough, the blackberries are breaking up through the dough, so I added a little more flour to absorb the liquid, the juice of the berries. And you can see I'm coming out with a pink colored dough. Now this one we're going to be doing in my cast iron, and I'll do one more to show you just one more way to eat your bannock. Now in the last batch of dough, what I'm going to add is a bit of Italian seasoning. If any of you watched my husband's extended stay video with his extended stay kit, you'll notice he carried spices with him in his package, and I like to carry Italian seasoning. You can be as generous with it as you wish. If you like spicy bread, then add a little more. I'll add a little more so you can actually just see the color. Of course you won't be able to smell the various spices coming through, but it almost looks like the velvet leaf China jute dough. And same thing as with the others, you add a little bit of water, mix. I was just kneading this ball of the herbed bannock out. And again, you can just flatten it by hand into a large flatbread, or divide it in two and make smaller ones. The smaller ones will obviously cook faster. Now we're going to take these bits of dough, the bannock, over to the fire, and we'll show you how to cook them. What I'm going to do is add just a tiny bit of oil. You really don't need a lot because remember you have your vegetable shortening mixed right into your dough. I just didn't want my skillet to dry out over the fire, so just a teeny bit will be enough. Now we're going to add, this would be the herbed bannock. This one will be the raspberry bannock. It'll be dessert. And here's the plain bannock. This one, when it's done, if you have with you a sugar and cinnamon mixture, as soon as you're finished frying it, just sprinkle a little bit of sugar and cinnamon. That'll keep your energy up on the trail as well. Alright, I've just flipped them all over. As you can see, the different colors. The white bread looks pretty golden. It looks a little darker with all the herbs. And this would be our blackberry bannock. I said bread, but really this is our bannock bread. Here we go with 3 different varieties of cooked bannock in a cast iron skillet. And the next thing we're going to do is show you how to do bannock on a stick. What I'm going to do is take my dough, just sort of pinch it over, and wrap it around my stick. Now you don't have to do a whole lot. Just make sure your dough is not too thick so that it cooks in the middle. And what we're going to do is just slowly turn this bread around until it's golden all around. Alright, as you can see, the bannock is now nice and toasty brown, so we'll be able to take this off the fire and we'll add it to our other plate of bread. There you go. If you did it with a bigger stick, you would have a bigger opening, and you could fill that opening with fresh berries or jams or syrup, whatever you choose, or just eat it plain. So there you have it. A few different ways of making bannock on the trail. And what I'm going to do is put all the different bannock recipes, as well as the bannock recipe that calls for powdered milk, onto the DVD. I'm working hard to get all the recipes together for you. This is Tam Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire, thanking you for joining us and extending an invitation to you to join us again on another cooking video. Have yourself a great day.